Okay, so
I'm trying to go back to my screen. To put the video on.
okay, I'm just gonna mute your mic for a second. So I'm very excited to have you both here. I really appreciate you both taking the time to chat with me and my group about the amazing community of Telmond. I've only heard about this place literally in the last few weeks. I didn't even know that it existed. It sounds like it's a hidden gem and that a lot of people don't know about it, which I love. I'm almost like scared to share this with other people. I think I just want to keep it to myself. Hold on, I'm just gonna mute you. And so I'm just really excited to learn more about everybody's experience and how you ended up at Telmond and what you love about it. So I think we'll start with, let's start with Gemma. Why don't you tell us how long have you lived in Telmond and what brought you there to begin with?
So we came in August last year, so we're here under a year, and it's been great so far. We researched heavily before making Aliyah and choosing the community for our family. We made lists of places, then crossed them off, then added other places, then crossed them off. And finally, we came for a pilot trip and visited 3 places. We visited Zehron Yaakov, Modi'in, and Telmond. Very different places, but for different reasons, family and different things like that. And Telmond won. Like, honestly, the community really won it for us more than anything when we came to the shul. Such a warm shul, such a friendly community. And the kids were happy. We have 4 kids. We have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and 2 1-year-olds. So they fitted in so nicely. They made friends, and it's a large Anglican community, but they've also got Israeli Hebrew speakers in their class, which is excellent. So we've had a really good time so far. The community is just so warm. People really pitch in, like when there's something happening, and for someone who goes to hospital for something, the whole community pitches in and makes them meals. We've got 2 new families coming in right this month, and everyone's making meal trains, so when they're in quarantine, there's food for them. And every festival before Corona, we did events in the shul where everyone in the community takes part in it and takes responsibility with a few others to make that event good. So I was part of one in Hanukkah time, I think it was, and we had a few of us on the committee, and we had, 50, 100 people there at it, and it was great, and the kids had so much fun, and there's been all kinds of events. And we've had Shabbat meal invitations, and we've had people around since the beginning. And people are just so warm and welcoming, really. And it's also quite rural, so there's fields around, which we kind of like. And it's not too big, so that when you're walking in town, you often see a friendly face, whether it's someone from the community or a random Israeli who you've walked past 5 times and you've got to know, or a banker from your bank who you've got to know and they say hi to you and your kids. Like, it's a nice small town feel, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean, you can get a little bit more for your money than you can in Modi'in in terms of that, even though it's not cheap still. And it's still pretty close to the center. So my job's based in Ramat Gan, my husband's in Netanya, but there's work nearby, which is a benefit. So yeah.
And where did you guys come from?
That's a long story. I'm English, my husband's Canadian, our son is American, and the 3 other kids are Canadian. So a mixture. We've been around. I'm originally from the UK, but we were living in Toronto. What do you say, Naomi?
I said her family's totally international.
Yeah, we're a bit of a mix.
And the shul that you were talking about, that was like really welcoming, what's that shul called?
Mevaser Sion. It's the only real Anglo shul in the community. There's one, and it's the hub, and it's really like an Anglo community would be abroad. Like in Israel, most times when you go to shul, it's just shul. You don't really have a community around shul. Something that's special about Telmond, and there's a few other places in Israel like that, but not many, is that the shul is that community, it's the hub, it's your friendship, it's your school, it's everything in that shul. And it's very mixed and diverse as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I can say for myself and for my family and for the, I don't know, 50 somewhat families that are in my group, that's very, very much an important part of the research process is finding the community. Because homes you can find anywhere. You can find a house anywhere, but it's like the people, your children, who are their friends going to be like, what's it going to be like on Shabbos? Where's everyone going to be hanging out? Like, that's really like the core thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what other communities in Israel have you seen that are similar in that way?
So in Jerusalem, there's a few shuls that I would say are sort of similar, not quite the same, but at least when I was younger, I went to Ramban. I think it's all changed now, but there was definitely some element of community there as well. And I know there are some others in existence. I don't know like any quite like this, but like I know there are some other things. Sorry, I don't know of any other quite like that. But Naomi, you might know more. I've only been here for like a year. So you might know of others that are in existence.
So Naomi, can you introduce yourself and tell us also about how you ended up at Telmond and what do you love about the community and the city in general?
Okay. Well, I'm from America. I'm from New York originally. I came in 2006. We had actually planned just to come for a year, and by the middle of the year, we decided to sell the house on Long Island, and we stayed. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I have now 2 boys who have finished the army, and 1 who's going in actually 2 weeks. Wow. And I have a teenage daughter. She's my baby. We actually heard about Telmond like in a roundabout way. Somebody had mentioned something to Telmond to my husband, and we were looking to invest in something to have for vacations. So we looked in Rina, because we knew Rina. We looked actually in Modi'in also, and this was before they really built it now. And when I looked in Modi'in, which was late 90s, it looked nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, I tell people it looked like a Western movie, you know, with the tumbleweeds, because that whole, if anybody knows Modi'in, they have a whole section in the middle by Buchman and Buchman West, and I always forget the name of the community, but that whole center area wasn't built. It was just dirt. And I'm not even talking about the new ones. So we didn't, and
okay, Naomi, continue. I'm sorry, you got cut off.
I don't know where it got chopped, but so anyway, when we looked at Modi'in, we didn't like what we saw, and on a whim, somebody had said, go look at Telmond. It's near Renana. And because I had family at the time living in Petach Tikva, and my husband had in Bnei Brak area, we drove out here. We took one look. We go, ooh, this looks like Miami. And that was it. So we started asking questions.
Wait, I'm curious because I live in Florida now. So what part of it actually looks like Miami?
The palm trees. We actually, I have to tell you that we wanted to move out of New York. We were tired of the weather. And we almost went to contract in Miami Beach. Actually, we went to contract. It fell through. At that point, I was very pregnant with my daughter. And we were like, okay, that's it. It's Bashert. We're not buying here. And when my daughter was about a year old, we started the process again. And there you go. We ended up here, and we bought. And I had to fix my house up in New York, which we couldn't figure out what to do. So we came for the year. And like I said, we stayed. We sold the house in New York.
So what's similar between Telmond and Miami? Like, what about it felt like Miami to you?
Yeah, to me, like the Miami Beach area with the houses and the quiet streets and the palm trees and the sun. It very much had that feeling for us. I mean, obviously not the Hebrew, Hebrew and English is a little bit different, but it was just something about it. I can't say about the community because you know, going to the shul on 44th or 41st, wherever I forgot the street already.
41st, yeah.
The same show, but there was just something about the way the place looked. But I have to tell you, from when we came, when we bought, and then came a year after we bought. Even from then to now, you can't compare how it looks, because there's been so much development, so much real estate development in Telmond. Right now, I think the official census is about 14,000 people, 14 and change. The end goal is that Telmond should reach about 25,000. And there's a lot of building going on right now on the outer ring of Telmond to increase the population here. So,
and is it mainly the developments that are going up, is it mainly houses or apartments?
I'll tell you, the standard zoning here, I'm not talking about the new stuff, but the standard, when you drive around, you see that most of the stuff are du mishpachti, which is 2-family homes. They generally, it's like this. You got a house on the right side and a house on the left side. Okay? But what they've done, recently, they've started gan gag projects, which they're not apartments, they're duplexes. So you have the garden level and the basement is the garden duplex, and then you have the second floor and the third, which is the penthouse unit.
Okay.
There's a lot of that going up there.
What's that type of housing? What is that called?
It's called gan gag duplexes. It's not, because it's a gan, which is a garden, and it's the gag, which is the roof. They have more, these buildings have morphed a little bit, so now you're having hybrids. So you'll have a duplex garden apartment, and instead of a duplex on the roof, you'll have a single on the second floor, and then you'll have the penthouse will be 1 story. It just depends on whatever permutation the builder wants to build, but there are a lot of these buildings going up on the outside areas.
Yeah.
You also have smaller cottages going up. There's a project going up right now that's self-build, that you buy the land and then you build the house by yourself.
Yes.
Those are smaller lots. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on because there aren't big lots. There aren't big lots anymore. Whatever's going up now is smaller. That's like the phenomenon all over the place anyway, because the big stuff has already been allocated. You do have they have a few Tama projects, which are the urban renewal on the apartments. You have 4 buildings that were completed, and there is talk in the next 10 to 15 years, and I can't give you the exact timeline because, you know, things just don't always go as you anticipate or you hear.
Yeah.
But there's a whole section of lower income housing that they're talking about building apartments on, but not in the, but even though I don't have a map out for you, it's on one side of town, and it's not on the side of the shoal, it's on the other side. But like I said, since they're talking about end game of 25,000 people, you have to find solutions if you want to bring in additional people.
Sure.
The solutions cannot be single family homes. There isn't enough room.
It's not realistic. Well, I mean, as we can see, you're definitely the real estate agent in the group. So you're going to give us lots of information, which is excellent, because that's usually the #1 question people want to know in my group is housing questions. So I definitely want to dig in more with that after. But firstly, I wanted to ask you from your personal perspective, what do you love about Telmond as a home, as a community, as a location? What is it that appeals to you after 15 years of living there?
Well, I still love the location because to me, it's the center. If I want to go to Jerusalem, it's an hour and a quarter or an hour and a half. Excuse me. If I want to go to the beach, we're 10 minutes from Netanya. My kids were all in the high school. There's no, Rita will probably speak to you more about the schools, but there's no mamachti dati, which is religious public school option for high school. So our education zone is Renana. So my kids got bused to Renana. My daughter is still there. So we're near everything. You've got the small town, like Gemma said, you have the small town feel, but you still have the ability to hop in your car and 10 minutes later you're whatever you don't have locally, you have around you. And the community, when I first came, there were 50 families belonging to the shoal. We're now about 170, 175. It's a little fluid, and there's some more on the way. So the place has grown by just like, a little bit. And it's nice that it's gotten more diverse. Where the Anglo community, whenever you look at any Anglo community, it's typically American, British, South African, Australian, and then you'll have the international, everything else thrown in. There's some French, there's some Spanish speakers, there's an Italian family, you name it, we've got it. We're really a multinational community, and it's really nice that everybody's able to get along and be friendly and become a cohesive group while still maintaining your own foreign national identity.
How many people would you say are of the population of Telmond? How much are Anglos and how many are Israelis?
It's still an Israeli town. If you look at the English speakers, we're still I don't know. What do you think about, like 5%, 6%?
Yeah, it depends how you classify English speakers, which I was talking about in terms of the education, because also in all the secular schools you have English speakers. So it depends on if you're looking at English speakers as only the religious community, or if you're looking at English speakers in terms of the entire town.
I mean people that are not Israelis, that weren't born in Israel, that are Olim, Anglo Olim, that live in the community.
Maybe about 5%, 8%, but wow. There's a lot of English speakers. Like, even though there's a lot of people who've come back on relocation, so you hear a lot of English. If you go to, I teach English for English speakers in the secular schools. There's a lot of English speakers. But those English speakers, the kids are English speakers and the parents are Israeli because they've lived overseas for a long time working in high-tech companies. So you do have a lot of English speakers, but they're not necessarily Anglo-English speakers.
Got it. Okay. I understand.
And then you have also the kids. You're born in the States. Your husband was born in the States, but your kids were born here. My kids are born here.
The question is, are they considered Anglo? We consider them Anglo. Does somebody else define them as Anglo? Like, the kids that I teach, by definition, they're not Anglo, but their English is just as good as my English or my children's English, because they went to very good schools in Singapore or in Hong Kong or wherever they were.
Right.
And I teach in 2 different schools in the area, and those kids are considered English speakers.
Right. Gemma, what did you want to say about that?
I think there's also something you got to think about is when you're looking at the community, you can look at the percentage of Anglo people in the whole town, or you can look at the percentage of Anglos in the school classroom that you're sending to. And for example, in my kid's Ganim, like in, say, Eliana's, my 3-year-old's Gun, her class, I would say, is about 40% Anglo. So, and my son was about 20%, 25% Anglo. So the younger families that are coming in and sending to the religious education system, the proportions are higher. So it's just something to take into account. In the whole town in general, we're quite small. But when you talk about the school system and the religious school system in particular, then the numbers and the ratios go up.
Got it. Can you guys just pause for 1 second? I have to take care of something for my baby. I'll be right back. 2 seconds. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. So Ori, tell us a little bit about your journey to Telmond. Where were you living beforehand, and what ended up bringing you to Telmond?
Oh, wow. We had a very long journey. I lived everywhere.
Oh, Ori, I'm sorry. I meant to say Ori. I said Naomi. I'm sorry.
Oh, you said Ori. Ori spoke to me before she moved in.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I lived everywhere in Israel, from the Galil to Tel Aviv to Holon. I was in Ra'anana and Hod Sharon. I can do this interview about many different towns.
Nice.
I think that what brought me to Telmond was the true feeling of community. when you come here and you spend a Shabbat, you really feel the community. You feel that it's a very soft landing, that everybody's really here to help and make you feel part of the community, make you feel part of the family. When I came, I was a little bit like, wasn't really sure, did I really want to be a part of this? Like, it was very overwhelming at first because I moved around a lot, and I arrived in Israel single. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for at first. So when I went to a lot of different places, but the minute I came here, within 4 days, I knew I was in the right place. Everybody reached out, and there was such a warm feeling, and people invite, and you really feel very quickly that people want you to be here with them. Through my journey in Telmond, I became very involved in the school. Currently, I don't have kids in elementary school, but I was very, very involved in the growth of the school. So I can tell you everything, the ins and outs of Telmond in terms of the education system. I would say that the school, if somebody had come and visited Telmond even 5-6 years ago, it's not the same town or school today as it is today. The school has grown tremendously. The involvement of the Anglo community in the school has grown.
Which school are you referring to?
I'm referring to Or Torah, which is in Telmond. I mean, I could tell you about all the other schools because I happen to work in the secular schools, but I'm assuming that this interview is more for the students that would go to Or Torah.
And Or Torah is a Dati Mamlachti school?
Yes, it's Dati Leumi Mamlachti. It's boys and girls together, straight through the 6th grade. After the 6th grade, they are bused to Renana. Now, that's not necessarily a negative thing. That's in the beginning, when as a young parent, you say, well, but they're going to be bused. Why are they bused? And it seems strange. Like, why would I want to move to a place where my child's going to be bused? One of the main advantages of being bused is that when you live in a small suburb and then you're bused, which is not far. We're talking about several miles. We're not talking about, being hours and hours on the bus.
Like how long is the ride? Because my son gets car sick. He hates being on buses. How long would the ride be?
20 minutes, 15 to, listen, if you do it with your car, it's 10 minutes. But when you make a lot of stops, it comes a half an hour. But one of the benefits of being bused is having the integration with other students from Renana, other students from the area, and the children also expand their social connections. The parent can choose what ashkafa they want to send their children to. It might be that their child wants to go to a yeshiva. It could be that their child is more fits better into a school that focuses on technology. It could be that they need maybe even a small class. But when a town offers the busing outside a small town, there are more options available to, I am being interrupted now, there are more options, there's more options offered to the student once they get older and their educational needs become more diverse. This is my son interrupting.
Hi.
Yeah, go back to bed. You're not interrupting? Okay,
I'm a kid.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Please go back.
So that's very interesting. So is Ra'anana the main city where they get bused to, or do they go to Netanya? Which is the main? Is it just Ra'anana?
They don't go to Netanya. Netanya has a different type of population than Renana, and I find that the kids from Telmond are more fitted for the schools in Renana and for the population in Renana. They also meet other Anglos. They meet other Olim. There's Olim services in Renana that meet the needs of the Anglo population. A lot of the schools have Ulpan classes in Renana for kids who need that extra help. It's only a benefit to be bused out. I mean, I remember when my kids were in Ghana, I said, what? Then when they go to 7th grade, they're gonna have to be bused. But it's really, really, they benefit greatly from it.
That's good to know.
Yeah, because coming from a small town, going into the city is a city, Ranana, you know, our city. There's a very big benefit to the integration. And also then you have also the Aphrodite, you know, there's the girls' school, the boys' school, focuses on the boys' needs, the girls' needs, and things like that. In terms of the school offers support services to the Olim. If there's a lot of Olim in a particular year, then they have a dedicated Ulpan teacher. If there isn't there isn't a lot of Olim in that year, then they're offered Olim hours within the class. Like the kids are pulled out during school and they're given the Hebrew hours. It's a calculation that the Board of Education makes, whether they want to send a teacher or if they just adding extra hours. The school puts a lot of emphasis on secular studies as well as the religious studies. Puts a great deal of emphasis on their national test scores. It's very important for them to show that the school is succeeding and to receive extra funding for all kinds of projects. All the classes, you know, have the projectors and computers and things like that.
What's the student-teacher ratio for a typical elementary school class?
So in Israel in general, it can get up to 37 children in a class.
Wow.
In Or Torah, again, I'm not in the school right now, but from what I understand, at the most we'll have something like 25, but it's been less. There are years where it's 22 and 20 and 22, around that. And most classes have a teacher's assistant. Because there are some kids that receive extra services, so they have a teacher assistant in the class, and normally the kids are divided in ways that there'll be a teacher assistant in each class.
Let me ask you now, with the whole Corona situation, which nobody knows how long that's going to be, how does it work out with the student-teacher ratio and social distancing and all that kind of stuff? What's their solution for that?
Well, the solution is whatever the solution is on the national level. Some classes, depending on the grade, some are doing distant learning, and other classes in the younger grades are divided into groups of 15 where they have to stay in the classroom. Like they can't be running around from class to class. Like the 15 kids go out to break together, they go out to recess together, they come back together, they go, in most schools, they're assigned like the same bathroom even, like this, they know that these 15 kids were, you know, use that. They divide up the
capsules.
They're called capsules, capsulot. They're calling them.
So like a typical class, it's like 30, 35 kids. They're now splitting into 2 classes.
Yeah, but Or Torah is usually about 25 kids.
Okay.
In a class.
Okay, and so the distance learning, is that like some days in person, some days online, like they stagger it, or they're older kids?
Well, the last month of school, they were all at home, and then Israel allowed them to come back to school, so they were in school. And now in September, it's until like 3rd grade, they're going to be in school.
And the older grades, they're just at home learning?
They're going to be half. It's going to be a hybrid program.
Okay.
Really positive.
Okay. So let me ask you something. In America, the way the private Jewish school system works is people are very, very familiar with the quality of education in each schools, right? Like the families are very involved. You really know like what each school represents. How does people figure that out when they come to like a new like how do they find out what's what?
Okay, it's a very, very complicated question. It really depends on, first of all, I would start on the level of, do I want my children to be in a co-ed environment, or do I want them to be in a single-sex environment? Do I want them to be separated by gender, in the same school, not in the same school, which also sets the tone of the school.
So what would that be called? What would that be called? Because I know most of the people from my group would probably want the boys and girls separate. They could still be in the same school, but they would want them to be separate. So what kind of a school is the kind that has boys and girls separate?
It would be a Torah school, but you have to take into account that not always, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but often when you have a separation by gender, you also have less emphasis on the secular studies.
Oh, okay.
So it's not always. I don't want to say that I said something that was blanket to every place, because that wouldn't be a fair general statement. Geffen, you're disturbing me.
There's a school in Kadima Soren, which is the next door town, which a few people send to, and there's another one in Hod HaSharon that is Torani that people do like, that people do send to. I mean, we're choosing to send locally partly because it's in our own town and all the social life. I believe half of elementary school is social. And have the social life in your local town is really important. But saying that, there's a lot of people that do send out to the nearby towns that are really close by, like Kadima Soren's 5-minute drive away, and there's a Torani school there, Kuneti Bar Moshe, and there's one in Hod HaSharon, I don't know the name, but a few people send there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make a statement that maybe I'm saying it from a point of being that I was the head of the PTA for many years. From my perspective, and also I'm a little bit involved politically in the town, if you want to strengthen a community, you need to send your children to school within the community and to get involved. Or one of the things I can say is of Or Torah, it has a very strong PTA, it has a principal and assistant principal that are very receptive to parents' intervention. And it's better to get involved on a positive level, to make changes. I made a lot of changes when I came into the school. I see Naomi shaking her head from seriously every single aspect of the school. I changed, and they welcome change. They want parent involvement, and it's very easy to say, I'm going to send my child out. But once you send the child outside of the community, it also has social implications. And because children become friends in school.
Absolutely.
We're sending local, and I think also to note that there's this year a new program going on in Or Torah, which is the Torani afternoon program, so twice a week after the school, which is really, really nice, and we're really excited about it.
I'm gonna have to stop my video for a second. I'm sorry, because it's getting a little crazy here.
I'm muting you for a second.
Sure, the 2 afternoons a week they're doing for an hour or two. I can't remember how long it is, but they're doing Torani programming in the afternoon. So they're doing extra Jewish learning in the afternoon, which is really exciting for me, because something that we did experience in Canada was awesome Jewish studies. And we were a bit nervous about it here, going to Mamachti Dati school, how is it going to be? But that's something that they're really making an effort to fit in and to embrace all the different sectors of the community and really make it a community school catering to everyone, which is really nice. So it's not separate.
Ben, what does that mean? Because and the models that we have in our schools, whether it's New York, LA, Miami, it's pretty much half the day is split Hebrew studies and the other half is English studies. Is that similar to the way that it works in the Team Mamachti school? Or wait, feel free to unmute when you're ready. I was about Team Mamachti. If the Jewish studies and the secular studies get an equal amount of time as far as
yes, they do, but you have to realize that all this, like they're teaching the subject in Hebrew, so it's not like the day is split that way.
I mean the content, not the language. I'm talking about the Jewish studies content.
Yes, there's a lot of emphasis. One of the things about Or Torah, which I can say, is that it's a pretty even split, but they do place a lot of emphasis also on the secular studies, because they do believe that there needs to be a balance, that the kids have to be able to go on to junior high school and high school. And this area is very competitive. I have a lot of high-tech companies. It's a very competitive environment. It's not like a small, like when I say it's a small town, it's not a small town environment. This is a suburb with a lot of people that education is very important to them.
Very much. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to pause on, I really appreciate your depth of understanding of this, of the schooling, because that's very, very important for us. I just want to switch gears a little bit and share the screen with everyone, because Naomi took time to, to take some pictures.
Awesome. Okay, this is one.
This is something new we're trying with the communities, because I feel like there's no way to really tell what these places are like until you see pictures. So let's start with this. So what's this, Naomi?
Okay, that is my car. I was talking about there are some new areas that are going like the equivalent of the ring. So what you see is new construction. There's some cottages going up that you see through the window. There's some of those duplex units that I was talking about.
Oh, I see what you're
And
saying.
all of this dirt and these plants that you see, that's all going to be gone. And this whole area is going to be built up in the next, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years. It'll all be residential.
Oh, I like this one. What's this?
That house was recently sold. It was sold in the close to $900,000 range. Roughly. It is a Dumish Parti. This particular house, which I know because I've been in this house, it is connected in the back. The common wall is in the back. It is built about 1,600 square feet, and the lot's about 3,000 square feet. The typical house in Telmond has 4 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, dining room. There will be an additional room, whether it's a guest room, a basement. There's always a mamad, the safety room, and depends on how the house is built. That the safety room could be one of the bedrooms upstairs. It could be the spare room on the main floor. It could be in the basement.
What I find really, I mean, for that price point to share, it just, I don't know, I guess I need to reframe my American model. Like in America, 900,000 gets you your own house, like without being attached.
Israel.
Yeah, not in Israel, right? Okay, what's
I mean, if you go to the north, if you go to like Migdala Emek in the middle of nowhere, you're going to get way more for your money, but at the same time, you're going to lose out on the connections to the center. You're going to lose out on a lot of things. So it's not only, there's lots of considerations, but Tel Aviv is one of the most expensive cities in the world. So compare it more to New York or London than to comparing it to Albany.
And Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's also a suburb of Netanya, Tel Aviv, Ra'anana, and those areas are more expensive, but you receive a higher quality of service when you're in a town that has, you have here community centers, you have the schools, you have shopping centers, you have things here that in other places you would have to drive much further.
Oh, that's a good point. I wanted, let me just stop the share for a second. Yeah, that's a good point I meant to ask you about was as far as resources. First of all, I'm assuming that all the chugim, like the things you'd want to do with the kids after school, I'm assuming there's a lot of options. Yeah. Is that in the matnas? Is that where they offer it?
One of the pictures is the matnas as well. The matnas.
Oh, good. We'll see that. And then if you want to go to the doctors, or there is all the kupot cholim, like an option.
Yes. That is another one of the pictures. What there's in the mall, the top floor of the mall is doctor offices. There's another building, not this one, but there's another building which I didn't photograph. Which
so why don't we just review the pictures in order, and then I'll ask questions later. So what is this? What does this look? What
you're looking at right now is the project of 16 homes. Most of them were sold. The lot sizes here are not huge. They're in the 2,000 to 2,200 square foot range on the lot, and built is also about 2,200 square feet. So the yards aren't as big, but it's new construction. It's kitchen living room. This is also in the 900,000, maybe a teeny bit more range, something like 900, 920,000, something like that.
Okay.
930,000.
All right, let's see the next one.
Okay, this is a picture of the mall.
Okay.
So that is in the center of town. You have a whole bunch of kosher establishments in the mall. You have pharmacy in the mall. You have a clothing store. You have a hairdresser, shoes.
What about like a supermarket that delivers? Is there options for food delivery?
Well, all of the supermarkets deliver. So
great.
There's several chains, and they all deliver. The upstairs of this building, though, on the top floor, the third floor, you have doctor offices. You have internists. You have gynecologists. You have a pediatrician. I think there's an eye exam place. I know that there's a lab that takes dental pictures. I forgot what other services are there. But you even have a gym. Okay, now I'm thinking my glasses. That is Or Torah. That is a picture of the school. The schoolhouses.
Just so you know, you're sharing the image on your screen. You're just clicking on it so we can see only.
Are you able to see it?
No, not really.
I don't see it. But...
Okay, hold on.
You have to click on the actual picture because it was very tiny.
Just so you know what the doctor's office is.
Yeah, that is the school. That's Or Torah. That is the bill.
Gemma, what did you want to say?
Gemma?
It got frozen.
You got lost.
Gemma, we can't hear you.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry. So I was just saying that 4 kippot in Israel, and we have 2 of them in Telmond. You have the main Klalit and Maccabi, but in terms of Lumit and Me'ochedet, they're close by, but they're not in the same town. But Maccabi and Klalit are the main ones anyway.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so here's the school. It looks kind of small.
It goes
all the way to the back too.
That's only the front, and I was by the parking lot. There's another wing all the way on the left that you don't really see very well. There are 12. They have 12 classes. So there's 2 buildings with 6 classes each. They're separated 1st to 3rd in one wing in one of the buildings, 4th to 6th in the other building, and you have a big play area in the back. And now they're building the gym behind it.
Okay, this is the town center.
That's Monsent. That's another shot of the mall. And okay, what you're looking at now, if you enlarge it, is the community center. That's the matnas. You see the statue dedicated to Lord Mund. The community center holds most, not all, but most of the chugim. Obviously, they can't be all because you have they have soccer field. There's a soccer field, so you have soccer. There's baseball for any Americans over there. They have an American baseball program. The Telmond team actually is one of the better teams in the country. My boys all played. The Telmond teams, there's I think 3. They've won already national championships. So obviously that can't be in the manas, but the manas has you have all different art. You have arts and crafts. You have dance, you have music, gymnastics is not held there. It's held, I think, in the gym in a different building. There are programs for children, there are programs for adults. So it's, you name it, you can probably find it.
It's like a JCC without the gym.
They do sort of a party this year, won't be happening, but they do like a party to introduce all the children to all the chugim, which is really nice. And they have all different kinds of demonstrations. They had capoeira, they had gymnastics going on, they had like the soccer thing, and they had all kinds of displays so the kids could go try it out and see what they wanted, which was really sweet. They had chess, robotics, arts and crafts. They were just really cute and really nice.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so let's see this picture.
I think okay. This is a house. It's a little hard to see, but you see a roof. This house just sold. It sold for just over $1 million, about $1.1 million.
Okay.
Just about $1.1 million. The lot size is about 3,300 square feet and built about 2,800. I don't remember the exact numbers. The 4 bedrooms upstairs, it was the split because you had a couple stairs up, you had the master and then the 3 bedrooms upstairs, kitchen, living room, dining room. The way that this house was set up, you could rent out the basement and the room on the side because there was a separate entrance and there's a yard. This is just a sample house.
Is this a cottage?
It's also almost every single house is du mishpachti. They're connected. This house is connected.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't even go to houses on the higher end because you can there are houses that are on 4,000 to 5,000 square feet, going up to half a dunam. Houses that will run you in the $1.3 million, $1.4 million, $1.5 million range. If you want a swimming pool, there are some houses that have pools. You're going to be spending in that range to get a pool.
I want to put some light on what she's saying because these numbers seem like very high. But a lot of people are moving to Ranana, and what she's telling you in a house, you're going to live in a 3-bedroom apartment in Renana for what you're going to pay for a house here.
Yeah. What I
compare the numbers.
Okay, I'd like to just, I'll fine tune a little bit what Emma and what Gemma and Orit were saying. The land here is not cheap. Okay, but if you go to Renana, the prices are even higher. If you're doing apples to apples, whatever you're going to spend $1 million on in Renana versus $1 million here, the $1 million in Renana, I'm talking about a house. I'm talking apples to apples. The house will be smaller. It will need work. If you're comparing the two. In Modi'in, if you're going to go to buy a house the same size as the house here, you're probably going to be going into one of the newer neighborhoods. And the newer neighborhoods there are even more expensive than here, because this is stuff that's in the periphery, not in the center of Modi'in anymore, because they have like the Modi'in the suburbs already, because it's not Buchman and it's not the one next to it. It's going further out because, everything in the center is all built up. And that stuff is all the houses that are like duplex, small bedrooms, small kitchen, living room, dining room, small yards, because it's built this way, it's all vertical.
So let me ask you a couple of clarifying questions. Number one, let's say you get a house, but there's no pool. How much is it to build a pool in a house?
Probably $25,000-$30,000 if you want to do an in-ground.
Okay, that's
like an in-ground. It could be a little bit less. I've never put one in my house, so I don't, but that's just what I remember hearing.
Okay. And then what about people that can't afford these super expensive houses? What are more affordable options? Firstly, let's start with rentals, because most of the people in my group, the plan is to rent first before buying. So
that's what we do.
Yeah. So let's talk about rentals.
Okay. Rentals. Let me take a tiny step backwards. If you want a house, okay, there's two options. Obviously, you can go into an apartment or a basement, or you can go into a house. Now, like I was talking about Tama, the urban renewal buildings, there are some apartments. The apartments will be they'll be either 4-room, which is a 3-bedroom, or a 5-room, which is a 4-bedroom. Whatever they say with room, the -1, and that's the number of bedrooms, because that's the way they calculate things here. The apartments will be in the 4,000, 5,000. You could get a basement, like a 3-room, which is 2-bedroom basement, possibly a 4-room basement.
Nobody's gonna move to Israel to live in a basement.
You know what? There are young couples when they start out. That's what they do.
I'm talking about the women in my group. Everyone's coming from a house, okay? Everyone's coming
but you know something? But Rina, let me point something out. People rent out their basements. So there are people, when they look at a house, they will look at a house that could have a basement for the potential to rent it out to get the money back to add on, to help pay back the mortgage.
I mean, for example, when I lived in LA, the model that works in LA is everyone has guest houses, and they make those, or garages that are converted into guest houses, and then they make that the additional income. So my question is, if there's a house, let's say you want to buy $1 million house, and there's a basement that you could rent out, is that basement apartment private with its own entrance, its own kitchen? Its own everything?
If the house was built that way and it's set up that way, great. There's some houses, like my house, my basement, there's no separate entrance. I would have to be digging underneath and creating something, and then you have to get permission from the town. Sometimes you can't get. It depends. So the bottom line is, it depends how it's built. Some of the newer houses are built now already with separate entrances. That's already in the plan of the construction. So the basement apartments would be anywhere from if it's a tiny one, like 2,500 shekel, 3,000 shekel, 3,500 shekel. But as far as a regular house, and there's a range, I would say you're talking somewhere between the $2,000 to $3,000 range. And I'd like to point out that when you talk about rentals here, everything is triple net, which means you pay the base rent, you pay the taxes, you're going to pay the water, you pay the electric, And if there's any gas that you use, if you have a gas stove, you pay the gas. You pay everything soup to nuts. And in addition, by law, when you buy a house, the only thing that they have to leave you are the built-in if there's any closet that was built in, like the kitchen that was built in, the fixtures, they have to give you a light fixture of some sort. They don't have to leave you any appliances. They don't have to have, the houses here in general do not come with closets. People buy closets, modular closets. So you have to take that into account when you're renting. You may be renting a shell and you have to furnish it. Some houses have them, some houses don't. There's nothing that I can tell you across the board that there's standard, because there is no standard.
Okay, so let's rewind. Let's say it's an Anglo family is coming from America. They have 4 kids. Let's say they need a 4-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom. I don't know, but I would imagine a 4-bedroom would be best.
Standard is 4.
4-bedroom.
Standard.
Okay. So a 4-bedroom apartment, and this was a key question. The shul, you said the shul is called Mevaseret Zion. What's the neighborhood that is where that shul is, that's like a walking distance if you wanted to buy or rent within that area? What's that neighborhood called?
Okay, and I'm going to give you the standard description I tell all my clients. Gemma heard this from me. Reed actually heard it from me a million years ago, and she doesn't remember it, I'm sure. When you come from overseas, like all of us did, you know what it is to walk, okay?
Yeah.
So there's the way the shul is located by the Tziporim, by the bird streets, and by the way, the neighborhoods here in Telmond, everything is named after. There's no person names. There's the bird streets, the flower streets, the river streets, the tree streets. There are now in the new area. They're putting up.
I think of it, there are no people on the streets.
There are no
people.
There's Derek Halord, which is one street, which is the person.
There's what?
Derek Halord is the only one, and it's not a name. It's like the.
Derek Halord. It's not. No, that's not his name. His name was Lord Malchuk.
It's his title, though.
It's a title, but there's no name. There's the precious stones, the precious stone streets. There are the flower streets. I'm missing one. They're the fruit trees, and now they're putting out the forest, different forests. So
you're missing the feeling.
There's mountains and rivers. The feeling. You're right. I apologize. There you go. The feeling I missed. So you can be right on top of the shul. There's close, there's far, and there's too far. So the way I look at it, and I'm coming from a point of view of somebody who understands what it is to walk, because I used to live in Woodmere, and to walk to the shul, I was like a 10-minute walk, but when I wanted to walk to my sister-in-law on the other side, it was 20 minutes. When I wanted to walk to my other sister-in-law who lived in Lawrence, I would walk 40 minutes, but I would put on my sneakers and go walk. The difference between walking there or in California or Miami, you're used to it in the summer, you have the heat and the humidity. So there comes a point where you say, enough. So as far as I'm concerned, and this is just, like I said, this is my point of view, and, you take it or leave it. There's close, there's far, and there's too far. Once you're hitting a 20-minute walk from the shul, it's too far. Yeah. Because you're coming with your little kids and you're walking from point A to point B, everybody's going to be a puddle and they're going to be fetchy, and you're not having any fun because you're going out to do whatever Shabbos afternoon.
You're saying the weather there is very humid.
In the summer, the rest of the year it's beautiful. It's beautiful or it's rainy. But even in the winter we can hit 70 in the winter. At night it can be chilly. It can be 50, 55, and that's like normal, 50, 55 degrees.
Yeah.
But in the winter, during the day, if it's sunny, you can hit 70. So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But as far as where you could live, there's so many options that fall between the close and far. So it's not one area.
That's one neighborhood. That's like the. No. Okay. I'm still not. I'm sorry. What did you say, Ori?
It used to be like in the beginning, but since the community's expanded to so many families, there's no one area.
But you even can't, because there aren't enough houses right on top of the shul. everybody's spread
Right.
out. I'm right now where Gemma
If I
lives.
get a good price, I live across the street from the shul. So if there's somebody who really wants to live across the street, I'll, if I get a good offer.
I have a question. I want to go back to the real estate question because I'm still not clear on rentals. But before we get to that, what's Shabbos like in the community as far as like, after lunch, if you want to take the kids to the playground, are there a lot of playgrounds? Like, is there a lot of free space? Like, what's it like?
Right on a playground.
What'd you say, Jen?
So there's amazing playgrounds. Firstly, there's a playground by the shul, which was redone, which is phenomenal, and everyone hangs out there after shul.
Okay.
Secondly, there's a new playground that's I don't know if it's in the area yet, but it's just been built, and it's phenomenal. It's bigger than the playground in Modi'in, which is ridiculous. It's phenomenal. And I don't know how they managed to do it in Telmond because it's just so great. And
what's that playground called? The new big one?
Nof Yeladut, and it's phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
The one by the shore is called the Bird Park because it's in the bird neighborhood, and that's really great also. It's smaller, but it's really great. One thing I think it lacks is lots of swings. Apart from that, it's great. It's like got climbing frames. It's got the big swings where everyone can go on together. It's got this big climbing structure with ropes. It's amazing. And then they have another playground that's right by the Matnas, which people hang out in called the Choshag. There's a sort of tree area with a field and a playground next to it, which people come and play like frisbee next to it in the field, and then the kids go and play in the park. But there's loads of other little ones around. Ori's got probably some near her house, Nomi's near me, but like there's all around lots of little ones. It's like really nice. For my kids who are at the playground age, it's phenomenal.
And does the shul have like a kids program on Shabbos morning?
Yeah, they do.
And if you were to describe visually what the city looks like, is it very green? Like, do you see a lot of trees, a lot of plants?
Yeah.
I told you
trees, decorated circle.
I mean, something that I found when I was looking at different places is that Zechron Yaakov, you feel like you're on holiday in Zechron Yaakov. It's got a historic touristic center. Telmond, you feel like you're living in a real town. It's definitely got a real center. It's less picturesque, the center, but it's very livable. And then all the suburbs, there's half of the town is very green, really tree area. The Ganim area, the old area is less tree-like. It's more old, less pretty to look at, but there's a whole area which is where most of the Angos live, which is very covered in trees. Most people have a garden. It's quite nice. And then there's fields around. So like when you're walking down half the streets, you can see a field. It's not like that far away. And driving in and out of Telmond, there's fields, which is really pretty and really nice. It's one of the nice things that I like about it anyway.
Yeah,
but
I think a lot of people want that. They want the green, you know? Is it like flat or is it hilly when you're walking? Is it flat or hilly?
Pretty flat. I mean,
it's
a little flat. Little. Because Telmond, Tel is a hill, so there's a little bit, but it's not.
It's like where you're like climbing these big hills.
No. We're not San Francisco. No,
Yaakov is like that. Zechron Yaakov is like that. That's a lot of. You get so sweaty. Oh my gosh. It's not so fun when you're pushing 2 strollers up the hills. But Telmond is there's like one hill in Telmond that I can think of, which is by the school. And that's the only hill that I can think of that you might crack a sweat.
By us. By the Manas, there's a little one.
Like you guys, come on. A little work on your legs. Like we're not talking about that.
And is it safe for the kids to like run around on their own? Are they going in and out to their friends' houses like freely, or is it more structured?
Oh, for sure.
Depends
on the age.
Walk to Chugim on their own, pick up their siblings from Gan, go walk to school, come back, go to a friend, go to the park, back and forth, it's nice.
You have there's a lot more independence for the kids to be out on their own, to walk around. Obviously it's within reason and parental discretion. I don't think that Gemma's going to let her children go out on their own at this point. My 16-year-old can go out on her own. The kids go together in bunches anyway. They'll go from one house to the other. to pick their friends up, or they'll go hang out by one house one day, 1 week, and another house another week. So there's a lot more. I find that
tell
there's a lot
that
more.
to my daughter, because every week they seem to be here. So you should tell them that they're allowed to go to another house on another week. That would be.
We've had phases that they were all in my basement. So Rita and I have daughters the same age. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Even the young ones, they do hop around from house to house, like on. But you have like exchanges of kids, and one kid goes off to another person's house, and then another kid goes off. Like, it's just that kind of community where the kids are in each other's houses, and all the parents are happy for it. Like, it's something you got to know about when you're coming in, is you're coming into a community. You can't just come into the community and expect to sort of be your own island and not be part of it, because it's very much a community, and that's what I think the community wants as well from you, is that they want to give, but they also want you to contribute and be part of it and be part of the environment. And Rina and Naomi,
I would imagine thing about the school. It's the same idea with the school. It's a community school, and they expect, just like you're expected to be involved in the shul and expected to be involved in the community. If you want to make change in the school, which is really something you can do, you're expected to be involved, and that's one of the things that I really discourage. If somebody wants to come to Telmond, I think that they really should first connect to the type of schooling in the town in order to strengthen it from within. And it could strengthen in all different ways. If it's more religious studies, if it's more emphasis on science, or if it's more emphasis on Gemara, whatever.
Oh, you put it on mute. You pushed mute, Maureen.
Wherever you want to bring the strength from, like if you want to help the school strengthen religious studies and secular studies, whatever. But when you come to such a community, if you lend yourself to be in the community, you can get a lot out of being here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Gemma, because you're the newbie, right, in this group? So when you first moved, did you plug into the mommy groups, and was that a huge resource for you to like connect to everyone?
So there's a WhatsApp group called Hoshak Leader, which I was part of. I have twins, so I didn't turn up to everything, because going into restaurants with twins is not so much fun, I have to say. Like, it's constantly trying to feed them, to keep them from screaming and not being able to hold them on your lap. But when they met outside, they did, and I made friends, honestly. And you go to people's houses and you go and join up. And now there's something, since I've not been on maternity leave anymore, since I've gone to work, they started something in the Matnas, which I'm really jealous about. They do like Mummy and Me group, and they bring picnic baskets and do yoga in the park, which I'm really jealous about. But it looks fantastic. So yeah, I'm a bit jealous, but it's really nice community. Like, you have lots of young parents and people are on maternity leave, I would say pretty constantly. There's someone on maternity leave to join you. And then in the evenings, there's a Telmond young women group. I'm sorry to be discriminatory. I don't know why I was into it, but there is. And they did, like, before Corona, we met up in restaurants and stuff in the evening on like a Saturday night and stuff like that, which was nice. It was really sweet, and it's quite a large number of people, and it's also very non-discriminatory in terms of the young people, not the older people. Sorry, I feel really bad. I didn't arrange this. I'm just part of it. But it's when you say, I want to go out somewhere, it's not saying you come out with me generally, it's saying whoever on this group wants to come, just come along. So it's very much, and the people are very different and very varied. You have people who are, less religious and would do certain things you wouldn't do, and people that are more religious, and you all go together and all friends, because that's the community. It's not saying I'm one type of person, I'm my type. It's that's what we wanted. I mean, we chose this community party because I don't want my kids exposed to only people like them. I want them to know and meet people that are different to them, and then have to be understanding and know that people come from different backgrounds, and that's okay. So so that's very much the community. You make friends with everyone and anyone, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
I think, that's something about the community. So if you want one type of person, this is again not the community, but if you want to have friends and be really open and inclusive, then that's the community you want to be in.
Would you say, right? I'm going to open up an old timers group. Naomi, you want to join?
It's already really bad now. I'm not the one setting it up. I didn't set it up. I'm already bad. But it's really
You
nice.
have to have people already graduated or Torah in order to join. That will be.
With entering Ottawa. I'm quite shocked actually. Something that surprised me about Israeli school system is that we have to buy a huge sketch pad for a grade 1 kid, like this size. Like what the heck? But that's a new thing for me anyway. Side topic. I just went school shopping.
I mean, this community sounds really amazing. I have to be honest, I'm a little scared because it sounds very expensive. So if people are interested, can we talk about how this could be a realistic place for them to live, but within an affordable, is it affordable basically? And especially for renters, like people who can rent versus buy.
Look, there are people who are long-term renters here. There are people in the community who did not buy and they rent. And, you know, I told you what the house prices are in the rentals. As far as because I was showing you some of the middle to higher end. As far as the lower end, you have some of the picture that you saw through the window, the first picture that I showed you with through the column. The duplex is going up there. They have not this that one. Okay. No, there was the first, I think it was the first picture. And that house that you just pulled up would be on the like 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 range. But that's a bigger house. That's built bigger. That's built 3,000 square feet, something like that, with a big yard in the back.
Okay.
But in the lower end, you can there are some units going up that will be in this sounds kind of funny, but in like the $700,000 range. It will be smaller. You're talking 1,600 square feet max.
With a garden?
It might not be the garden. It might not be the garden. It might be the upstairs unit, and you'll have a patio of 300 square feet or 3,500 or 350 or 400 square feet. You'll have the roof view. The garden is always going to be more expensive.
So how much is it, or just let's repeat this because this is very important as a takeaway. If a family wants a 4-bedroom, either a house or a duplex or whatever, with either a garden, not whether, for sure a garden, that's what people want, is a house with a garden. So if they wanted to rent a house with a garden, how much would that be to rent?
Depending on what's available, and like I said, this is real estate, so you just don't know what's coming up because the houses, yeah, one thing I will emphasize, Telmond, like we've been saying, is a suburb. People move in and move out according to the school year. It's not like Tel Aviv where you have transients. It's not like Jerusalem that you have a lot more transients. So most of the movement here is around the school year. Most, not 100%, but most is around the school year. Most people will be moving in and out in the summer. Okay. That being said, a standard house rental contract is 1 year plus a year option. So these things are cyclical. Some years there are more houses on the market. Some years there are less.
So meaning if somebody's doing Aliyah and they want to move to Telmond, they need to start looking by like May or April, May?
I usually I work remotely with a lot of people, and I tell people, if you're coming to do your pilot trip, let's just say in January or February, and you'd say, okay, Naomi, we want to move. I tell them, tell me already by Purim time that I should start keeping in the back of my head. Most houses on the rental market will start to pop up around Pesach time because if people are leaving and they're not renewing, so the landlord will know that the house is coming up.
So basically the inventory is low.
It depends. There are some years that there's more. There's some years that's less. I can't.
And how much are we talking? We need to wrap up the call because it's getting late and I have to go. My baby's calling me. So if you could just tell me how much would it be to rent a 4-bedroom house with a garden?
I told you the standard rental will be between $2,000 and $3,000 on the rental. I tell people yeter bitachon, just so nobody comes after me afterwards and said, Naomi, you told me these numbers and they're off. You should be figuring in somewhere between $500 to $700 a month on the extra expenses.
Yes.
So So safe, and if you're looking at an average number, I would say $3,200 a month is a very safe number for a decent house. If you want something bigger,
With
obviously
expenses included or not included?
I say like a decent house on the higher end will be about $3,500 a month, soup to nuts, plus minus.
With everything.
Yes, but like I said, there are houses that are bigger. If you want a big house, there's some houses that rent for almost $4,000 a month.
For sure, you're always gonna, but I'm just saying, like within the range that people can actually afford. I want to tell you, we've been doing calls to lots of different. That's pretty standard.
The rental market, the rental market across the board in regular metropolitan cities is not going to be that different. The difference will be the purchase price.
Yes.
Because the rental market is rental market. I'm not talking about apartments, but it's pretty much, you won't find such huge discrepancies on the rentals. You will find a difference on the purchases because it depends on the neighborhoods, the land, what the land costs, what the build out, because different cities are zoned differently. They have different tax bases.
Yeah.
It's real estate.
What is this place?
That's the show. That's a picture.
Wow, it's beautiful.
It's really nice. It's really beautiful.
You don't see the park. The park at Tipurim is to the right of all those trees, like to the right and behind. I didn't take a picture. I don't think I took pictures of the playground, but that's the entrance. That's the front entrance to the show.
So if people in my group want to come and check out the community for Shabbos, is there like a Shabbat hospitality or like
we have people that you can speak to. I often, when people come and they want to see the town, they'll get a tour. I give tours of the town.
Do you do that for people who are only coming in for buying or just bichlal?
No, if somebody wants to come and see the town, I show them around. I mean, obviously, I'd be very happy if they want to use my services. But my point is, I want people to know about Telmond, and I want them to see Telmond. And
do you show people rentals as well, or just for sale, just to buy?
No, I do both. Both. But I will point out, if somebody is coming on a pilot trip, okay, and their intention is to rent, okay, even if it's buying is different, but if their intention is to rent, for me to go show somebody, and I tell everybody the same thing. It's a rental. You want a 4-bedroom house? I don't know what's going to be available when you're coming to rent. So for me to show you a 4-bedroom house, I'm telling you, the houses are 4 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, dining room, maybe a basement, may not be a basement. It's whatever's available, and I work remotely, and I take pictures, and I'll send pictures because I'll go through the house. But to go see a rental, and remember, I said January time or February time, there really aren't there are very, very few rentals on the market. And on top of that, even if it is on the market, it may not be in the area of the shul. So the idea is, do you like the town? Do you like the shul? Do you like the school? If you've decided you like the community, it's a rental house. You're not going to be living there forever. You need a place to land. You need a place to register. You need a contract so you can register your children for school. You need an address to send your list.
Okay.
So to see a rental when you're coming on a pilot trip is really, it's not really important.
So let me ask you, let's say if you want to register your kids for school, how long does it take? Like, let's say people show up in the summer, they have a rental place. How long does it take to get accepted into the school? Can they assume
5 minutes.
What is
5
it?
minutes. 5 minutes.
They have to take you. By law, they have to get, you want your child, first of all, it's like a public school system. You live there, they have to provide school. As far as the Mamachti Dati, you have the option of going to public or the religious public. They have to give you a spot. It's not an option.
Okay.
They take kids in May as well. If you show up in the school to register, they have to accept you.
Oh wow.
High school is different. They do not have to accept you to a certain junior high school, but elementary school, they have to accept you.
Okay.
But the yeshivas is another story. They can decide that also as you go up the ranks of religious observance in the schools, if you're going to go to a school that's not registered, it's called lo rishmi, they don't have to accept you. It's not a public
It's
school.
private.
And then if
Mamlakti has to accept you.
what about, I forgot to ask you this, and this for me personally is important. What about Torah learning for women or for men in general? Are there shiurim? Are there women's gatherings?
Okay, since I'm in charge of the women's share in Shul now.
Oh,
So on Shabbos, so I can talk about that a little bit. First of all, there are shiurim in Hebrew and in English all the time.
okay.
The rabbi gives a co-ed shir Sunday morning. There's a woman's shir during the week. It's like bi-weekly. There's daf yomi in English for men. And right now there are tons of Zoom shiurim going on. There's a couple that moved from South Africa this year. He gives a shir every week, and his wife will be periodically giving shiurim as well in English. So there are tons. Shabbos morning after davening, there is a women's shir. We've been doing parsha for the last couple of years. I just took over running the shir. So it's on a volunteer basis. Somebody gives it every week. But it's the davening, and we didn't talk about the shul at all. There's hashkama. Forget about Corona, because Corona has thrown everybody for a loop. But the normal setup is hashkama minyan. Then there's the regular minyan. After the regular minyan, there's a kiddush. And you know what? It's like this is like, I can't wait till things go back to normal and we can get back into the building. After the kiddush, there is a parent-child program for the fathers to go with the kids, like ages kindergarten to third, give or take. And the women have a shir at the same time. There is the rabbi has a session with the teenage kids. He has also for the college the post yeshiva and army kids. There's B'nai Akiva in the community, and B'nai Akiva has stuff going on for the kids during the week. Sorry?
Sofim?
They're Sofim, but they're not religious.
They're not religious in Telmond. They're not religious. Renan has a religious branch. We don't.
Okay.
They, in general, I think they only have religious Sofim groups where the population is so big that it's not going to splinter off. Here we have B'nai Akiva. But,
I mean, it all sounds really special. Is it okay if I share your contacts with people from my group if they watch this and when they want to learn more about the community? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This was amazing, really special. All right, so we'll be in touch, and
thank you for inviting me.
Oh, this was super fun. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.